Welcome everybody to SaaS on the Streets. I'm very excited to introduce our guest for this week who has cracked the code on how Google looks up and responds to content on web pages in terms of helping writers write more effectively. It's this kind of AI kind of writing coach. It's called Ink for All. Welcome, Alexander de Ridder.
Thank you for the warm welcome.
So I think we should tell everybody how we met. We're at a virtual conference last week called SaaS Growth Summit, and looks like we're having trouble connecting to LinkedIn. We're at this SaaS Summit, and I was finished for the day. The whole thing had finished. I was just working away, and then this voice popped into my headphones. Hello? And it was you. It was Alexander, actually, just sort of coming along after the event. A bit like if you go to a real event and the exhibition hall's kind of clearing out and the exhibitors are taking away all their stands and all the participants are left. You're just sitting on one last chair that's there. And someone sort of walks in off the street and goes, well, what was all that about? So that was quite a way to meet up, Alexander.
Yeah, I'm happy we did meet. Look at us now.
Barely 4 or 5 days later on a live stream talking about your product. Well, I think what was interesting too was how you were like, so what do you do? And I was like, well, what do you do? And did we talk for like an hour and a half just in that random empty space of a virtual conference?
Yeah, it was close to an hour, I believe.
So we are, here today to find out about this innovation. You're the co-founder and the CTO of Ink for All, and you made a few comments to me about how revolutionary it is and how far ahead of the curve you are in terms of kind of like what people have had to use to be able to write effective copy for search prior to Ink for All. So why don't you tell me about the problem space of people having to deal with a search engine in the first place and the problems of having to deal with Google and all the disparate things that they have to kind of deal with. And then we can kind of maybe look at your promo reel and dive into a little bit of the technology and the product and how you've solved all these problems. And I think a lot of people will be fascinated by what Ink for All does.
Perfect. Yeah. Thank you. So it's interesting to understand these topics from a historical view and a historical lens. When Google came onto the scenes, they found a way to surface information, help you find all that hidden information on the web. And it's still today, there are sections of the web that regular search engine don't search, right? And people call it the dark web. It's dark because there is no light shed on it. There's no way to easily find it. You have to kind of go and look for it, or know it already exists. So the search engine and the search engine revolution was about Google helping you find all these things. And the way you would search for it is by making a search query. You would type in something and then Google would try and match you up and say, like, here's the results we think are going to be useful, what you're looking for. It used to be an art. It's still an art, but it used to be a real awesome art. I remember back in the days, I kind of knew what to search for to get a good search answer. Do you remember those days? And then other people were not so good at Google. And so therefore, Google has worked very hard to also make everybody be able to use it and understand what you might be searching for. So there's been a lot of improvement that Google made over the years. Now, back in the year 2004, 2005, we are going to talk about content supply and content demand. The dynamics between those two were dramatically different than they are today. You know, the amount of available information on any given topic on the web was a lot lower than it is today. I don't have the exact stats, but it would be amazing to look up. I read somewhere like something like 99% of the world's information was generated in the last 5 years, 2 years. Like the amount of data that we are producing as humans is just exponentially increasing. But that's a very interesting fact. Is just how much information we have been producing since these early days of search. It's changed the game, and yet you have kept using Google all these years and have come to expect a level of service where you find what you're looking for. But since there's so much more to choose from, Google gets to be a lot pickier now. And so it's not sufficient to just write and include an article and include the word. Now your article also has to be extremely relevant. Your site has to be loading very fast. The user experience needs to be delightful. So the bar keeps raising as the content supply, your competition is increasing. And so
what's an analogy of Google in the real world? Like, is it like, in terms of like how fussy it gets and how fussy it becomes, say, over the course of a year or 2 years? Like, is it, have you got any like, is there an animal that you think Google's like, or a profession, or a kind of character? Like how do you think of Google?
Well, if there's a cartoon character, it would be like Roadrunner, and the SEOs are Wile E. Coyote trying to get it.
Right. That's good.
What I can say is that in the SEO world, when Google releases an algorithm update, we frequently call it like an earthquake or a storm, category 5.
Wow.
So we talk about Google updates in terms of seismic scale.
Wow, that's cool.
Yeah.
So it's Roadrunner with a bit of like some sort of Marvel superhero thrown in to make a massive impact.
Google is Thanos, right?
What?
Google is Thanos, the supervillain from
why did you say that?
Thanos? Well, because Google flicks his finger, you're on the second page and you no longer exist.
Well, we're actually working our way through the Avengers from the weekend. My kids and my wife and I, and we've gone chronologically. So we've got like 21 to go, and so we're going to get to Thanos, and I'll be thinking about Google the whole time. Okay, that's helpful.
Yeah. So it is in this supply and demand dynamic that kind of the idea of ink as a software, as a solution, it's originated. Because what has happened, Simon, is that over time, the demands of ranking, the difficulty of ranking with your content has increased significantly, and it's becoming harder and harder for content creators to rise above the noise. Now, Ahrefs is a very famous company in the SEO world. They crawl the whole web, and they make tools for SEOs, for marketers, and they put a study out that more than 90% of all content will never receive search traffic from Google.
Wow.
Now, if you would take any profession in the world, let's say you're a plumber or an electrician or a builder or a doctor, and 90% of your work would not render a desirable outcome. Like, who could survive that?
Are you saying it doesn't reach Google, or what is the actual quote?
Google will not give it search traffic.
Okay.
So,
wow.
so imagine all these content creators in the world, and 90% of all content that they produce will never receive search traffic from Google.
Wow.
So I'm trying to put this in perspective, because it didn't used to be that way. It used to be in the early 2000s, if you write about something, you get results, you get people looking for it. You know, the time when WordPress and Blogger was like booming and the content on the web was exploding, because it was very rewarding for you to do so. But great ideas deserve to be heard. So think of like, what if we had never heard of Newton, and his writings and his findings would just like be lost to time? It would be buried on the second page of Google. We believe there are great people out there with great ideas, great companies, great ideas that deserve to rise above the noise. But you don't have, you're not necessarily an SEO expert too. And now it's become really hard to do that. And we've seen that firsthand with we have a search agency that we built up, and we've seen it firsthand with large companies, some of the largest companies in the world. Even they struggle with this process. The marketing agency creates amazing copy on brand, on tone, on voice, right? Tells you all the facts you want to know. But then Google's not picking it up.
Right.
So then the SEO company comes in and says, no, you got this content all wrong. You need to write it like this and this. And the brand company says, well, no, that doesn't work with our brand. And so you have to do this dance between the SEO team and the marketing team. The content is like this dance between science and art. And it is in that dance that we figured, you know, this is where we can create a product. So we built an artificial intelligence to figure out what the heck Google wants.
Right.
Right. I can go very technical on it, but high level, think of it like discovering what concepts, what ideas users are expecting to find in a top result. And we do that by looking at patterns of what your competitors are ranking with. And we look at the very deepest level of understanding language. So
right.
there is a concept called lexical optimization that's more focused on counting words, how many times you use this word and how many times you use that word. Technical terms related to that are term frequency or LSI words, but that only operates on the word level. But we operate on the idea level, the semantic level. So do you express the ideas correctly? And we believe that is how Google is looking at content. It is not so much the words that you're using to express the idea, but whether you are completely covering all of the things, the ideas that people are looking for, and to sufficient depth. And
really?
Yes.
So we're trying to Chad, who's just joined, wants to try the product.
Oh, well,
he wants you to reach out to him. Let's play the promo just in case he's got a couple of seconds, because this is so cool.
Let's do it.
Let's jump in and this is the Awesome. That's just so amazing. Like
Thank you.
I've had a brief demo from you in the exhibition hall. So for someone like Chad, they just go in and they just go to inkforall.com and just sign up. They download it on their machine and they start writing and use all the tutorials, right?
Yeah, and it's Windows, Mac, and Linux software. So it's actual software you can install. It's an actual app on your computer.
Yeah. It's not vaporware with a little bit of stuff in the background and
No,
very limited until next year when you open it up. No. So it's here and thousands of people are using it already, right?
correct. Yeah, and we've been out there. So how do I put this nicely? We feel that writers are often underappreciated. They do tremendous work. They are true talent. This true talent, you know, and
Thank you.
yeah,
On behalf of all writers, thank you.
so because of that reality, right? Ink is not something that if we made it inaccessible, everybody could afford. So for us, it was very important to make an amazing free edition that was
Right.
really useful. Think of it like an amazing place to write in. I have attention deficit, and it was so important for me that we have this thing called like the non-interruption principle. For example, you're writing, I'm not going to start underlining words and say spelling and grammar this and take my concentration away. We're only if you're in the spelling and grammar sidebar, we're going to underline stuff. When you're writing, the icons like fade away in the background. So it's just you and your canvas. And like, it's really made for the writer. We have a focus mode, typewriter mode, color, dark theme. We've got accessibility like colorblind mode, dyslexia mode. You don't do that unless it's a love story to the writer.
Yeah.
I
like that. Love story to the writer.
It is. It really is.
Cool.
And we want the writers to feel like this is a product for them. Very early on, we had conversations with SEOs who saw our technology, and they were a little bit like upset with me. And they're like, "Why are you giving this to the writers? Like, just make a tool for us SEOs." And I said, you guys have enough tools, and all your tools are numbers and spreadsheets and complex and hard to work with. Writers can't use it. So what we're going to do is we're going to go against the market. We're going to go and make a product that maybe writers can't afford, and we're going to make it free, and we're going to make it awesome, and we're going to put our big brains in there. And so the idea then is that as writers adopt it and fall in love with this, we hope they will, because we really worked hard for them, is that they then bring it in businesses, and businesses would be then swayed by the, not just by, oh, it's a nice writing environment, but they'd be like, oh, my content actually is performing better. And this is worth investing in, like pro editions. It's worth investing in for my business because I am getting the results. I'm getting the rankings. So this from the beginning was our frame of mind.
I think it's like people talk about freemium, and I've had intimate kind of dealings with basically a paid SaaS that's not performing, that goes, oh, we'll just do it free for a period and then we'll get them to upgrade. And the problem with that is that the great quote, loss leaders lead to losses. And however, if I look at the experience of Grammarly, my personal experience of Grammarly, and I talk about this in my programs, is that you start out with Grammarly and you just go, well, this is incredible. Why would I not have Grammarly? And I think the way they did the monetization was, in my experience, it wasn't smooth for me personally. And so I resisted paying. And then I was setting up a new MacBook, and that was getting rebuilt, and I was trying to get everything on OS and iOS, LastPass working across everything, and just like get all my services on all three devices, iPad Pro, MacBook, iPhone. And Grammarly popped up, and I went as a fresh user, almost like a fresh mindset, like, okay, well, there's stuff I need for my new environment. I need it on everything. And I looked at Grammarly, and I looked at the free version and the paid version. And the paid version was like, when you expect it for free and you say, oh, now they're charging me, you look at it and you go, I don't want to pay. But when you look at it with fresh eyes, why wouldn't I pay like whatever it is, $100 a year or something, or the best writing assistant when writing converts everything? Writing is just certainly for me, it's the key. Language is the key to everything, particularly we're all online, right? So it's now my texting, Grammarly. It comes up everywhere. So I've gone to the premium version of Grammarly. But when you're talking about putting the best possible free version out for Ink for All, that's just brilliant, because you obviously know what the premium is going to be, but what you need is just that adoption saturation to take place, so that people actually go, this is the new standard of writing copy for Google. And that's hard to achieve, but by the approach you're taking, I don't see it as a sort of it's not a freemium sort of, it's not in the realm of you're actually trying to convert, just like Grammarly did. Have an assistant to help you orchestrate your sentences better. Have an assistant to help you just be visible, just be in the top 10%. So I think it's really powerful, the path that you're on.
And this is honest, right? I'm okay for people to use the free version forever and never upgrade. That's totally fine. And I want to keep on making it better and make it. So our vision for Ink and Ink Free is to be like WordPress, but for writers. And we are working actively on a plugin ecosystem where we're open sourcing our APIs. Developers can already go check it out inside of Ink and imagine creating their own applications inside of Ink for writers. If you are offering a better spelling and grammar than what we do, well, make one. If you offer a plagiarism checker, make one. If you're offering an image suggestion service, go make one. If you have your own CMS and you want to integrate direct publish from and to, from Ink, from the editor for your writers, make one. We're trying to make this to be the platform for writers, for every writer.
Wow. Yeah. So so the product that you've got out there is a utility, and you've got a much bigger kind of marketplace vision,
right?
That you haven't unleashed on the world yet.
Well, parts of it are already live. You can go to our in our app. You can click on the plugin sidebar on the left, and you'll find a link to our developer portal. You'll find how to create your own export to Microsoft Word in 12 lines of code. You can make your own plugin, just like, hey, new file format to export, and I can extend Ink, and you'll find all of the API documentation. important too to know, Simon, is like the way we've built our product is we've been out letting people use it, and we've actively been listening to feedback. So this has been with thousands and thousands of users, writers in their hands for a year and a half now. And we have built this product for our users, for the writers. And 90% of everything in the application since launch has been as a result of a conversation we've had, like today, or somebody submitting feedback. So it's really a product that writers can love.
It's fantastic. You know, I get the feeling this is kind of one of those interviews that I'll look back on and go, well, you know, it was 16th of February 2021, and we were talking about this, and it wasn't that well known, and you're talking about, you know, listening to the market for 18 months, because it feels like you kind of won the game. This is what I love about SaaS businesses. I was at an event last night, and someone was saying, well, we haven't got many multi-billion-dollar SaaS businesses in New Zealand. I was like, well, that's just a matter of time. Like, people don't understand what they're looking at when they see it versus what it's going to become, and whether someone's got insurmountable hurdles in front of them. Like, I don't really see you guys. I know it's way too early to make these sorts of comments, but that's just how my mind thinks. I just go did it. Because who's gonna take you out? Like, who's gonna? There are other solutions, but you come at it from a kind of a pure aspect of helping writers write.
Right. I believe that the other company that really came at it from helping the users was Yoast when WordPress first came around, and they've become kind of the default or known for SEO help inside of WordPress. Unfortunately, the way that they do optimization, in my view, is, you know, hopelessly outdated. That's not how, in my view, Google works anymore. So you've got millions of people who rely on a plugin that, again, in my view, is not effective anymore. That just doesn't really work. And I go into great detail on that in my white paper. You can find it if you go to inkforall.com. In the footer, you find a press page. There's a white paper there that goes and explains why I believe that. But you're basically left with a vacuum of millions of users who are, you know, wondering, when is my content good enough? Hey, I'm writing. I'm an editor. There's beautiful editors out there like Ulysses, great to write in, right? Really focused on user experience. But you're writing and you wonder, is my content good enough? Can I hit publish now? What will Google think? It's a black box. And since Yoast, there have been startups that try to solve it. I've seen the problem. Most of them, I believe, are stuck in a world of 5 years ago with lexical optimization, LSI, TF-IDF, like really focused around words. It's a more advanced form of keyword stuffing your articles. Not really the right way to do it. It's better than what Yoast is doing, in my opinion, but it's still not all the way there. It's very focused around the SEO. Writers are an afterthought. I believe that we're the first company since Yoast who is actually doing for mass market and actually focused on the users more than about primarily just making like bank, or focused on where the money is. Because the money is clearly with the SEO tools, right? It's easy money. I have an SEO need. I'm going to spend money. But the writers, well, the writers are just the writers. Just give them a content brief or an outline. We'll tell them what to do.
Do you want to share your screen, and we'll just have a quick look at how the tool works so that people get a sense of it.
Sure. I can show you the ink editor. Is that?
Yeah, that'd be great.
Okay, let's do
I think
it.
just this intersection with the Google parameters would be really helpful to visualize by seeing it
Sure.
live. Yeah.
Well, maybe I can just show this diagram real quick, and before I move and switch my
Sure.
screen to ink. So here's the problem that we're trying to solve with ink. You have, human and AI content creators, mostly human, but in the next few years, there'll be a lot of AI content creators, and there'll be hybrids like assisted writing solutions. But essentially, you're producing content, you're investing in content, you're creating content. And your problem is the content judges, the Amazons, Googles, Facebook, and so forth of this world, are a black box to you. They are the gatekeepers. They decide whether your content can become a rank candidate, whether it deserves to be ranked or not. But you have no idea because it is a black box. It's like Schrodinger's cat. So will your content reach your audience, or will it never be seen like 90% of content is?
Hang on. So Schrodinger's cat, you got two holes in the fence. You see a tail and a head. Is that the one?
No, it's
what's the Schrodinger's cat one?
It's a cat in a box, and you don't know if it's still alive or not.
Ah, okay.
It's a black box.
One which is...
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a black box, and even in the quantum world, even peeking at it would affect the outcome. So you never really are quite sure what is going to happen with your content. Is it going to rank alive, or is it not going to rank? Is it going to be dead? And all you can do is just hope for the best. That's no way to run a business. That's no way to be a content creator in 2021. You need to have a bit of assurance. So this is what Ink is doing. Ink is, finding out what the black box is looking for. Think of it like a shrink, marriage counseling with Google. It's trying to find out what it's looking.
So what are you doing when there's an earthquake? Because you're the CTO. So when there's an earthquake, when there's a Google earthquake, and which is a great example, because like everything's leveled and everybody has to start all over again going, what just happened? Now, how come nothing's working anymore? So what are you doing on, like, I know someone who makes Apple merchandising. She makes backpacks, and when Apple put out backpacks, and it's called STM, when Apple do a release, she's like, that's the busiest time in her year, because they'll announce all these products, and she has to press go on all these manufacturer orders in China to make sure it fits the dimensions of the new products the moment they've been announced. So it's a little bit like that, where an earthquake happens and you're up for like 3 days trying to figure out what just happened.
This is a design and architecture question on how we build our artificial intelligence. So our artificial intelligence is patented. It's unique, and it's built from the ground up. And we use a technique called online learning. That means that you are learning from immediately available data, as opposed to offline learning, where you almost pre-learn on a database and then and then have to retrain if Google were to change. So our ability is to ingest ranked content and find patterns in higher ranked content versus lower ranked content. And when Google algorithms change or earthquakes happen, what we do is we ingest the new landscape in real time and draw new conclusions for it. So let's say, in a practical way, that let's say there was a Google update and you saw that some content is losing traffic. What you would do is you would just run that article through Ink again. And in real time, you are going to be able to see your new score, and you're going to get new advice on how to come back to the top.
I love your answer. Like, we were actually live streaming this, so you'll be able to go back and look at that answer. But that is just such a brilliant way to answer a question about, like whether in any scenario, you basically said to me, you told me what my question really was a question about. You know what I mean? Like people ask such strange, obscure questions. And it's like, how do you, you've just done a masterful job of going, that is an architecture question. I go, oh, was it an architecture question? I didn't think it was. But then you answered it with the right backup. So it's impressive on a lot of levels, Alexander. Okay, cool. So should we talk about GTP3?
Yeah, GPT-3. I've got one more slide here.
Yeah. There we go. GPT-3. Maybe I saw that was going to come.
Yeah. There's this meme about this. Have you seen this meme with this couple walking down the street and the guy's like looking behind his shoulder at like the other girl? You know that meme? No. And then his lady is like all like not happy with him. Like, why are you looking at this other girl? And so his girlfriend is GPT-3. The guy is like SaaS or whatever companies. And the other girl they're looking at is DALL-E from OpenAI. It can generate images now, not just text. And so developers right now in OpenAI chat rooms are every day they're coming in. It's like, when can we get access? When can we get access to the next model? Even so, there is a we talked about supply and demand earlier.
That's right? A pretty geeky meme. I'm quite pleased that I haven't seen that.
Okay, well, it's everywhere. You can just it's basically looking at the newest thing, like the new toys out or the new techniques out. It's using to illustrate that kind of feeling. But it's just to illustrate that this field is moving very fast and the innovation is moving very fast. But we can look deeper, a layer below, and kind of like X-ray vision, look at where the market is heading and what all these things are going to amount to. Right now, the media is all about GPT-3, and the next few months is all going to be about the next model, the next thing in AI. But what is underlying all this, the underpinnings of it, is that we are at the beginning of a content supply and demand revolution, because these models are not going to get worse. They're only going to get better. And so GPT-3 is unique in the sense that it is the first, you would say, AI content generation technology that actually has real wide-scale practical applications in the real world. I do not believe it is anywhere close to replacing a human writer, but it is starting to be very useful in certain applications to start generating content. One person is using it to generate recipe ideas for a site and have more recipes. And I don't know if that site needs a label. It's like, this food might taste disgusting, but because AI just made it up.
Right. Have we defined, could you just give everybody your interpretation of what GPT-3 is from a 10-year-old's perspective? Yeah.
So before I go to the 10-year-old, let me just say what the acronym stands for. It's called Generative Pre-Training. And it's a 3 model because there was a GPT version 1, version 2, and now version 3.
Right.
The idea behind a pre-training is to take a very large data set of parameters and try to learn from it, pre-train on it, to generate and try to predict what the next word or words would be in a sequence of words.
Right.
So let's say I would start a sentence with, today I was talking to Simon, and GPT would try to complete that sentence.
Right.
And you can have clever ways of asking it questions. For example, I could say, Johnny is a 5-year-old, and his dad is trying to explain to him what cold fusion is. His dad answered, ... and GPT would try to complete that sentence, knowing the context. It's trying to explain it to Johnny, a 5-year-old. And so it's called inference, and you can infer it to give certain results or outcomes. Nevertheless,
on your next appearance, you can explain what cold fusion is.
Okay, great. Sorry, you're right. But it would be a difficult topic that would be interesting to explain to a 5-year-old. And if you do ask me to come back and explain cold fusion, I might just ask GPT to put it in a 5-year-old language and read that back to you, because that is a challenge.
Okay.
So, but the point here is, though, that we are now in a world where AI is starting to produce content out there that is competing with your human written content for eyeballs.
Okay, got it.
So in that sense, it's a harbinger.
That's what this is talking about. How it's like we're trying to catch Roadrunner, and now, like, because there's just, the game's completely changed because there's so many other things going on that catching Roadrunner is not really kind of like, we've got to outperform all these other artificially created but naturally sounding language generators.
It's kind of like in the cartoon where, they're chasing each other and kind of keeping pace. But then as he gets closer, all of a sudden it's like poof, a cloud, and he's like running 10 times faster and he can't keep up anymore. That is what is happening to us right now. And I don't believe that the world is fully awake to this new reality, this new world yet. But it will profoundly impact the life and livelihood of content creators, of writers. And because that gap is increasing so much, we believe that there's an enormous opportunity. Two things will happen. The value of performing content increases exponentially.
Yeah.
And the need to bridge that gap, the difficulty of bridging that gap is also exponentially getting harder. And so what we're trying to do with our company is not be yet another content generation tool. We see that as a commodity. That will happen. People are going to invest in it. Like Microsoft invested $1 billion in this OpenAI GPT AI, $1 billion. It's a lot of money going to generation. The problem is
we're paying a lot of tax. We're paying a lot of tax for Microsoft Office right now.
Well,
Microsoft Office 365 is just internet tax, I think. It's hard to operate without it.
You can change countries. You can change countries to Google Land if you don't like it.
No, but I just find it impossible to operate without Microsoft Office, just because of the way that certain industries like lawyers only use it. And so now you're on this 365 tax just to be able to communicate back and forwards with particular niches that insist on using it. And you're like, well, okay. Anyway, Hey, look, could we jump into just a couple of minutes on
the application? No problem.
Just show us one aspect of the tool connecting into the Google parameters. Just that for a sliver of time,
right?
Because everybody can get onto Ink for All and.
Can you see my screen?
I can add you. There you go.
Awesome. Yeah. So the point I was trying to make is that Ink is here to help you content creators bridge that gap.
Yeah.
So you don't have to worry. So you really just look at this score here in the SEO sidebar. You go here, you add your key phrase, and then it's going to score in real time. As you are writing, it's going to update your score, and it's even going to tell you what it means. So if you have a high score, let's say over 90%, you're 4 times more likely, 400%, if you like big numbers, to be in the first page of Google compared to if you were not optimized with your content. And so you are looking at some features of Ink Pro, but the word task and document task are available to everybody. The content scoring is available to everybody. You can add your keywords there, at no cost. And so there's also a way to give us feedback. We always welcome that. Just hit that feedback button. Now, what I'd love to show you in relation to your question is like one of the features we just released in January, a month ago, which is emotional intelligence. And so this one goes and dissects the exact emotions that people want to click on when they are searching for your key phrase. It's never been seen in the marketing world. And for writers to have this type of insight right at their fingertips, I hope you can see why the SEOs are jealous, that they were like, why give this power to writers? Here you can see for this particular key phrase that users want to respond to curiosity, greed, and trust in that order. You can also see words you can use to convey curiosity or greed, and it will also show you the words that you have used in your headline to convey that. Ink has a spelling and grammar checker over here. It integrates with your workflow, import and export, and we also have a WordPress plugin to make it easy to drag and drop your Ink files into WordPress for easy import. It can manage your alt text. It can manage your metadata. Many tasks. Go ahead.
You've got a spelling and grammar in there, so that sits in the editor, and then you export that out, right? So if you
yes, so
yeah,
I can show it to you. So over here, so you can see this and be like, did you mean there are many ways, and instead of there is many ways? So let's say I accept this. I would just click on it, and it will change it and go to the next one. Over here, IE is missing a dot. So it recommends that we add a dot after the E. You can click on it, and it will complete that and go to the next one. And so forth and so on. After all your issues are fixed and you would go back to your word tasks, you're going to see this card complete. 6 word tasks. Your score is going to update according to the weight of each individual task. What's very cool too is it will tell you you've written enough. You don't have to write long. You don't have to write more words. Google's satisfied. Users are happy. And then from a topical point of view, and I guess this is the last thing I'll show, is here we can show the exact topics you ought to cover in your article. You can see how many times you've covered the idea in all the word forms, and how many times you ought to cover it. It is sorted by priority. You can even go into detail and see all of the related ideas. You can go and see keywords and see how competitors are writing about this, along with context, and you even can check out their source. So if you are guessing how to become more relevant, you don't have to with Ink. This is an Ink Pro feature. You don't have to guess how to become more relevant or how to up your score in terms of what you should cover.
It's just incredible. Like this is one of those things where if you're not kind of in the business of SEO and writing copy that's going to rank highly, you don't really know what you're looking at, right? But if you're in that world, it's jaws on the floor going, holy crap, does this mean that this is, as you said, it's always updating itself. It's always referencing the current situation with high performing content. So when there's a massive change, you're seeing what's now high performing, and it's all calibrating, and you're not having to, you're kind of giving, you're giving the tool that Google would perhaps have thought of giving, but hasn't given to the market, right?
Yeah, and let me just, to the audience here, let me just inspire you a little bit on how you can leverage this. You can use this on your blog, but you can also use this to write better product descriptions that informationally cover all of the aspects that people want to see when you're writing about that. It can also help you when you're creating headlines or titles for ad content and you want to be more persuasive. We are taking care of understanding the emotional needs of your audience too. So for example, we understand which sentences are too hard for them to understand. There's no tool on the market that will show you this particular sentence will cause people to stop reading and start skimming, which results in lower time on page. So why don't we tweak the sentence a little bit? So Ink can help in a lot of different use cases when creating content. And I hope it can really make everyone's workflow better. Just go to Ink for All and hit download. It's no hassle. You can sign in with Google or Facebook and just start writing immediately. And if you are interested in Pro, we are launching tomorrow. Although I think sneaky people may already find their way to check out earlier. But yeah, tomorrow is the big day where our announcements are going to go out. And there are a lot of things we have planned for the next few months. So keep an eye on us and follow. Yeah, on LinkedIn, you can follow me, Alexander de Ritter. Just look me up and follow me, or follow my company, Ink for All, on Twitter, LinkedIn, because a lot of very exciting things are going to be released in the next few months. Can't wait, but I have to.
Well, that's a great note to end. Thanks, Alexander. Thanks for stopping by. And where are you based?
I'm located in Houston. So
Houston, yeah.
Yes. Right now, covered in snow.
Yeah. Well, it's a chilly day here in the summery Queenstown at the bottom of New Zealand. It's been fantastic. I'm really excited about getting to use Ink for All and getting to know you and the other and your co-founders. And it's a fantastic journey. So I wish you all the best. And thanks again for coming.
It's a pleasure. Have a nice day. And thank you for all your audience for sticking with us for an hour. That's a lot.
Cool.